This video goes out to all of my Warlock main friends out there. You aren't the largest percentage of the Destiny player base, but you still do make Ikora Rey quite proud to be the Warlock Vanguard. Judging by the teasers we've seen lately, Ikora looks like she's going to be playing a bigger role in the Witch Queen story. She's a deep, unique character just like every one of you Warlock mains watching this video. But I think we can admit to one another that we do all share some similarities with one of the greatest Warlocks ever. So here's 13 things that every Warlock main does. First on our list is never taking off those favorite Warlock boots, the transversive steps, 99% of the time. Just like Titans with Dune Marchers and Hunters with Stompies. Take a look at the exotic equipped right now on your Warlock. I bet more than a few of you are wearing transversive steps right now. I'm sure even Ikora Rey wears her transversives all the time when she's zooming around from meeting to meeting in the tower. Hey, time is money, right? And Warlocks wear these favorite boots for good reason. Transversive steps have been some of the most powerful Warlock exotics ever since the Lunafaction boots got nerfed many years ago. Once Lunafaction stopped instantly reloading your weapons, the T-steps rose even higher in popularity, and they've been near the top of the usage charts ever since. Your movement is much faster with the T-steps on, which is really good. This can get you around the map faster in PvP, helping you be the very first one to those important lanes. Or maybe they'll even save your life as you slip just away from danger with those speedy boots. With the T-steps, you never need to reload. You can run whatever champion mods you need in PvE without missing out on the benefits that the reload mods give you. And in PvP, you can add armor mods to your gloves that you normally wouldn't be able to use because all you need to do to reload is start sprinting. You can also slide further, which is really nice on a Warlock because that adds to the movement options like surfing and Icarus dashing. With everything Warlocks have going on for them, it's easy to see why Top Tree Dawnblade has been such a popular class for the Crucible. So thank you Bungie for giving us this beautiful and maybe slightly overpowered exotic. Speaking of the Icarus dash, this leads us to number 2. Warlock mains play mostly just one class in PvP, and it's been the Top Tree Dawnblade for the past couple of years. Top Tree Dawnblade has a great ranged melee attack that does a ton of damage and tracks your target. It even hits Titans behind their towering barricades. Solar grenades are one of the best options in the Crucible because they can zone off some huge areas with that high threat of the burn damage. Or you can also consume your grenade and roleplay as Mary Poppins up in the sky. With this one ability, you break all the rules to keep everyone else on the ground in those predictable areas while you soar around wherever you want. And then you have the Icarus dash, a movement ability that was so powerful that it used to be a Titan exotic back in D1. Oh, and don't forget about the roaming super, which still remains a dominant force in the Crucible for those who know how to use it wisely. Talk about a stacked class, right? No wonder why everyone uses T-steps in Top Tree Dawnblade. Every player in Destiny seems to think that their main class is the one that's the weakest, but come on, someone high up at Bungie must be a Warlock main considering how strong the Dawnblades have been for quite a while now. When Warlock mains aren't flying up in the air somewhere and decide to grace the Hunters and Titans with their presence back on the ground, they always do thing number 3 on this list. They run around the corner and pop those healing rifts every time they get shot first in a duel or when they know they're about to lose a fight. The Titans and Hunters say that Warlocks go run away and hide, but maybe you don't like what this implies, so let's just call it a strategic retreat. If a Titan or Hunter gets the first shot off in a duel, no big deal. Warlocks can just reposition behind cover, drop a healing rift, and then be good to go just a moment later. It's truly such a powerful ability when used wisely. Plus, transversive steps make Warlocks so damn slippery with the faster movement that they can slide around a corner quickly. Throw in an Icarus dash or two and it's damn near impossible to catch a Warlock when they start skating around a map, especially if there's a good staircase somewhere to launch from. Once they're safely behind cover, Warlocks know that if the enemy tries to push them, they can just keep on healing between shots while in the rift. But if the enemy's too slow to push, they now have an overshield on top of full health, so they really have the upper hand in a duel. Good luck to the Hunter or Titan main out there who just got jebaited into chasing them. They really need to be on top of their game to win the duel now. These tactical retreats wouldn't be quite as tactical if Warlocks didn't have their healing rift ready to go. Luckily though, recovery is the best stat in the game for PvP and it also doubles to reduce the rift cooldown timer, so that's really never a problem for Warlocks. They pretty much always have the rift ready to go. But sometimes they don't want to use the rift offensively and they really don't have to. They can also use it offensively with the 4th thing on this list. Warlock mains love to use the Stag in combination with an Arc Soul healing rift in Trials. Hey, sometimes we need to make an exception to running transversive steps, especially when it means that you're going to become much harder to kill. If a teammate goes down, the enemy team gets a massive 3v2 advantage to pounce on us and finish the round. But with a Stag healing rift, even the slowest of Titan allies will be able to stay alive because of the reduced damage and the passive healing provided by the rift. We all know that every Hunter likes to brag about how good their aim is, but when it comes down to an intense Trials match, sometimes they can't even hit the broadside of the tower. Once they step into our rift though, the little arc buddy is going to at least do some damage while they draw an outline around their target with bullets. This PvP build is used by Warlock mains out there that either love to be a team player or just have a lot less faith in their teammates than they'd like to admit out loud. If you're a Hunter or a Titan playing with your Warlock friend who just changed off their T-steps to use the Stag, well they might have just dropped a scorching burn on you and you didn't even realize it. Another exception to the unwritten rule that transversal steps are never allowed to come off is the next thing on our list, swapping over to the Ophidian aspects in the Crucible. If the T-steps ever get nerfed, Ophidians are instantly going to move from the second most popular Warlock exotic in PvP to the first. This is maybe even somewhat likely to happen since Bungie keeps talking about nerfing movement exotics. These boots for all three classes get a lot of benefits without any trade-off. If that day ever happens, there's going to be a mass switch over to Ophidians because they let you reload really quickly, they ready your weapons nearly instantly, and they extend your melee range. Titans are going to have a lot more competition in the close quarters. As we start to see more armor mods getting introduced, the mod options for gloves are going to get more complicated. Most players will have to weigh the choice of something new or interesting with the reload mods they already have on their gloves. But with Ophidians, those new mods can be slotted in without giving up a whole lot of reload speed. Or you can also choose to use any of the current Charge with Light or Elemental mods that require a lot of armor energy and still have room for that plus 10 stat mod that you might want to run. The Ophidians give you just so many build options to run in PvP and PvE, and they're just sitting in players' vaults waiting for those T-steps to finally get nerfed. And if you think Ophidians give you a lot of options for PvP, just think how many PvE options we already have on Warlock. Every day is basically Thanksgiving as a Warlock main because of the next item on our list. That would be how every Warlock main out there is just thanking Bungie for giving them so many powerful PvE options. Ask any hunter, they would kill for just one more powerful endgame PvE build. There's the Stasis Warlock turret with the Eye of Another World exotic helmet. This build is a go-to option for Grandmaster Nightfalls. The Eye of Another World reduces the cooldown for every ability, so you always have a Stasis turret available that slows and freezes enemies. And of course, we can't forget about the Old Faithful team support build. The Lunafaction boots with Well of Radiance is the original PvE build ever since Forsaken back in 2018. When you drop a rift down for your team, they get super fast reloads from Lunafactions, and they can actually help recharge your next rift even faster, just by standing in your current rift. You also get basically double your normal range, which made builds like the Double Slug Shotgun PvE setup so powerful and easy. And if you'd rather just get your Well of Radiance super back faster, just slap on the Phoenix protocol. Then any kills or assists while in the rift will recharge your next super even faster. Middle Tree Dawnblades also recharge their grenade and melee abilities faster just by buffing up their teammates. The best way to save your overly aggressive Titan bro might just be by throwing a healing grenade on them, and with this build, you're going to have plenty of them. There's also a bunch of mid-tier PvE options, which means that they're basically as good as the best hunter builds out there. Crown of Tempest Stormcaller is great when you want to throw a lot of lightning around quickly. The Nezarexan Voidwalker is awesome for solo flawless content, and there's a bunch of other exotics that just add a lot of power fantasy to the Warlock. I think it's safe to say this on behalf of every Warlock main out there, but thank you Bungie for some great PvE build options to run. I hope it gets even more awesome in the Witch Queen. Another thing we have Bungie to be thankful for is that Warlocks are basically the sole survivor of the big stasis nerfs. Behemoth was a powerhouse in both PvE and PvP, but now it's much less common in both and especially rare in PvE. The Revenant Hunter Silence and Squall is still a pretty good shutdown super in PvP, and the class has some useful PvE setups, but the Shurikens and Glacier Grenade Shatter Dives aren't nearly what they used to be in PvP. I'm actually happy for this one though, because if I got Shatter Dived one more time, I was about ready to change my career. So this leaves us with the Shadebinder Warlock. In PvP, the super is a top tier option even with the recent change requiring 2 shatters to kill another roaming super. The tracking on the projectiles is just insane. You can get instant shatter kills around walls even without looking at the person that you killed. I mean, how disrespectful is killing someone in the Crucible without even giving them the decency of looking them in the eyes when you do it? You can also completely immobilize either PvE enemies or Crucible players with the melee ability, and also with your Rift depending on which aspect you choose. Oh, and of course we can't forget about the Warlock's best friend, the Stasis Turret. This is a staple endgame PvE ability which makes so much of the hardest content in the game quite a bit easier. Guardian Games 2020 went to the Titans, Guardian Games 2021 went to the Hunters, but the winner of the Stasis Hunger Games definitely goes over to the Warlock. Maybe we should get that printed on some hats and t-shirts. But with so many fun build options available to Warlock mains in PvE, there's just one question that none of us ever want to hear. Hey, can you swap over to Well? That question really takes the wind out of your sails. We spend so much time on our cool builds, tweaking and perfecting them to be the exact power fantasy that we're chasing. Spending all that time and effort just to have to go back to the same boring build for the millionth time is kinda dreadful. Again, we've been using this build basically since 2018, the Lunafaction boots and the Well of Radiance. But hey, at least it's not as bad as Hunters who have a grand total of about 3 relevant PvE builds right now. Maybe if Cade is still around, we'd have something more interesting than the Celestial Nighthawk during a boss fight. Or maybe it's true, Bungie really does like Warlocks more than Hunters. All jokes aside, it does really feel good being so important to the team as a Warlock. You gotta love those moments where you drop your Well of Radiance at the perfect time to save your fire team from going down in a GM Nightfall. Well of Radiance is such a powerful ability, and I'd rather have it than not have it, even if it can get kinda boring from time to time. I'm just hoping that the Witch Queen brings us a lot more build options to spice things up. There is definitely one thing that hunters have that warlocks don't, and we might be a little bit salty about it. They have a way cooler looking class item. I mean, you can barely even see the warlock bond that someone's wearing. Sure, it looks fine when you actually go to inspect it, but the hunter and titan class items are so much better and more noticeable on the battlefield. The hunter cloak perfectly matches the hunter identity of being that rogue lone wolf. The titan mark sort of fits into that space knight theme, but it mostly just kind of looks cool, kind of like a fancy space towel. But the warlock bond is like one of those rubber wristbands from the early 2000s. It's small, lightweight, and colorful, but easily forgettable. It would be really cool if there was something else that fit into that scholarly space magic warlock identity that we all vibe with. A great idea I've seen in the community and always really liked was having a mantle that would go around your shoulders and down your chest over whatever robes you might be wearing. It's sort of like the extra drip some people wear during their graduation over their cap and gown. It would just fit so well with the scholarly lore stereotype that most warlocks fit into. You could have short ones or long ones, and there could be mantles made out of different cloth options like Vex Tech, Ahamkara bones, and even hive worms. I think the mantles would be way better looking on Warlock, and they'd actually be noticeable and fit perfectly with the class theme. Aside from maybe getting teased a little bit because of the Warlock bond, being a Warlock main is considered a pretty respectable thing in the community. Saying you're a Titan main gets met with the same old comments you hear a million times about eating crayons. That meme is so old at this point, it's actually one of the things I mentioned during my video about things that every Titan main does. If you say you're a hunter main, there's basically two stereotypes. People either think that you're too basic or casual to play anything else, or people think that you're one of those anime profile pictures with stompies glued to your feet that spends all of your time complaining about whatever just killed them in PvP. Back in Destiny 1, pretty much every single Crucible nerf was somehow blamed on hunters. When you say you're a warlock though, you pretty much get a nod of approval. Everyone's always like, this person is a space wizard and probably loves their lore just like my name is Bife. I guess the warlocks out there are just fortunate that there hasn't been anything too bad to say about warlocks so far. Another common theme for all of the warlock mains out there is the love of reading the Destiny lore. I swear every friend of mine who's super invested in the Destiny lore is always a warlock main. They buy all of the lore books, they've read the Book of Sorrow multiple times, they read every little bit of flavor text on the weapons and armor in game, and if there's anything that adds more to the world of Destiny, they always get their hands on it. I do enjoy the Destiny story and I love my time binging on Bife's awesome channel, but when I have a question about some lore related thing on my mind, I'm pretty sure that one of my warlock friends has the answer. Not only are warlocks dead serious when it comes to Destiny's lore, they will fight either friend or foe if someone tries to interrupt them during the new expansion's campaign story. If you do so much as breathe too loudly during the presence of a warlock when Savathun's talking during the Witch Queen's campaign, you're making a friendship-ending mistake. It only takes about one time for warlocks to learn that they need to play the campaign solo to get the best experience. Once every 18 months or so, we get these massive narrative experiences that just aren't possible in the seasonal content. Sure, the few seasonal cinematics we've gotten along with the in-game dialogue this past year have been really great. It's definitely been a huge improvement over the old Grimoire cards of Destiny 1. But what we get in a fresh new expansion just hits different. If you're not a warlock main or you don't really care about the lore, remember that there's a lot of players out there who really do. Let them play through the campaign at their own pace the first time by themselves. Once they finish fully enjoying that new experience, then you can get on them for hunting the new loot or leveling for the new raid. Number 13 on this list is a really fun one. We've talked before about how warlocks have so many different fun PvE build options, but I really wanted to talk about this one in particular. With the Crown of Tempest exotic helmet and with the Risk Runner exotic SMG, playing Stormcaller feels like LARPing as a Sith Lord straight out of Star Wars. I really love the synergy that the Stormcaller's abilities have with each other. When you get one ability, you recharge the rest of them. And when you add in the Crown of Tempest, you have this great rotation where you're constantly weaving lightning attacks to kill your enemies. But if you do happen to run out of your abilities for some reason, just pull out the Risk Runner or the Trinity Ghoul and keep the Force, well, I guess the Arc Lightning, going strong. As someone that grew up with Star Wars and loved the old games, this is the closest I felt to being a Sith Lord in any modern game, and it's a lot of fun. If you like this video, consider joining my Patreon. It's a great way to support video projects like this one directly, and you get some really cool perks like map guides for Trials of Osiris, personalized PvP gameplay breakdowns, behind the scenes content, and a lot more. You can join us at patreon.com/pattycakesgg. And up next, if you haven't seen it yet, check out my video on 11 things that every hunter main does. It's the video on the top right of your screen and also linked in the description.